Welcome back, everyone, and we are excited to welcome back Leigh Cowden with Vermillion Law Firm. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
All right, thank you. And you joined us last month, and this is going to be a recurring theme for us. Once a month, we'll be talking about estate planning because that's what your specialty is. And something that we're going to discuss today is what can go wrong if you don't plan ahead. And you've wanted to discuss some high-profile cases, 3 of them from the music industry, all of which kind of gotten some notoriety, some of them being very famous. One of them being Aretha Franklin. So she had a very high-profile case where, can you kind of outline what happened with what was going on with her and what went wrong there?
Yeah, so Aretha obviously had a very large estate and a lot of family members who were potentially going to inherit her estate. And it was initially believed that she did not have a will at all. And then they started finding different writings that she had left behind, including some notes on a notebook stuck in the cushions of her couch. And so that issue raised holographic wills, which are handwritten wills, and in many states are legally valid without witnessing, without a notary. So the question became, are these writings actual wills? Are we going to recognize them? And which is the most recent one that we're going to recognize? And so that determines who's going to inherit. So obviously a lot of money at stake, a lot of people interested in it going their way. So that means litigation and lawyers' fees.
And so learning from this, you need to have everything explicitly, exactly written down, and it's never too early to go to somebody to say, hey, this is exactly what I want to have it done, right?
Exactly. So a lot of people, even very famous people who have lawyers on retainer, wait too long to do their planning. None of us know when our time is going to come, so I always say get it done as soon as possible. Have a professional do it for you so it's done correctly, and have it in a place where it can be accessed when it is needed.
And then there was Prince. So he had no will at all. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so what happened in his case? Because I bet everybody involved in his camp was probably thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to, take this on, excuse me.
Yeah, and so Prince obviously had lots of attorneys. So the first question is, why didn't he have an estate plan? And a lot of times people are urged to do it, but they say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to think about my death. I don't want to think about who's going to receive my assets because I'm not even sure who I want to receive my assets, so they put it off. In his case, he put it off too long. And now we have to figure out who are his rightful heirs. When you don't have a will, the state determines, the state statutes determine who is going to inherit. And it's your biological children, potentially a spouse. And if you're a very famous person who maybe has children in different places, children that maybe you know about but other people don't know about, it can become very messy.
And how does this hold up that entire process?
In order for a probate case to move forward and for us to figure out rightful heirs and distribute the estate, we have to make sure that we've identified legally who's entitled to receive, because if we make a mistake along the way, another person can come forward and say, you should have recognized me. Here's the proof that I'm an heir. And everything that was done essentially has to be undone. And then there will be a lawsuit against the person who was managing the process. We call them an executor or a personal representative or an administrator. So it can get very messy. There's a lot of anxiety and feelings involved, and of course, a lot of money.
And rounding out this trifecta of famous and iconic legends in music, last one being George Michael. And to my understanding, he had a will, but his estate had issues. What were those issues, and what can we learn from his case?
Yeah, so his case was really interesting because there were a couple things going on. Number one, he was in a same-sex relationship, and as you know, the laws have evolved over time. Some people are recognized as like a spouse, and in other cases, they are not recognized. A lot of people are in very long-term partnerships that never officially become a marriage. Some states have common law marriage, some states do not. Tennessee does not, by the way. So a person may have lived in a home for 30 years and been attached to their soulmate for 30 years, and when that person dies, they are kicked out of the home and receive nothing. Also in this case, George Michael had not updated his documents in a long time, so his current life did not match the life that he had when he did the documents. So people who were important to him in his current life were not recognized, and people who had been removed from his life were still inheriting because he had not updated his documents. So estate plans are things that should be amended or looked at regularly so they reflect your current reality.
And for our viewers at home, chances are they don't have a massive celebrity type of estate, so they're probably wondering, why does this apply to me? But that's important for everybody, no matter how big your estate is, correct?
That's right, because if you own your home, even if it still has a mortgage on it, if you have an IRA account, or if you have a bank account, these are assets that could potentially end up in the jurisdiction of probate, and then we have to have a lawsuit essentially to decide who's going to receive those assets. For me, for most people, we work hard to earn our money to build up our estate. We want to make sure it goes to the people we care about or to the charities that we care about. We don't want the state deciding that it's going to this relative we haven't talked to in 20 years. So we put a plan in place so that our wishes are followed and everything is very clear.
And what is the biggest mistake, common mistake that people will make when they are planning, if they don't go to you or they just don't go the correct route like we've just discussed with these 3 cases that we just had?
I think the biggest mistake is people don't understand really what's at stake. They think, oh, I just need to do this will thing and I can download something from the internet, or I'll just write something out myself. I hear you could do stuff handwritten and it's legal. The problem is legal language is very different from day-to-day language. We have to use specific terminology so that the law recognizes what we're trying to say. When I see somebody who's handwritten a will or downloaded something off the internet, it often has the wrong words in it. So their wishes are not expressed in the right way. So it kind of falls apart in court. People are saying, oh, lawyers are expensive, so I'm going to find an alternative route. Unfortunately, lawyers are the ones with the expertise. We're the ones in probate court. We're the ones reading cases. We're the ones that know what proper language needs to be in there. We can fashion a plan that's exactly designed for our client and their particular family, their particular issues, and we do it in a way that's recognized by the law. So I always say, don't delay, don't put off something that your family's going to need, and don't be penny wise and pound foolish, if you've ever heard that expression.
And Leigh, you have a seminar, Estate Planning 101, and this is something that you discuss every week or every month?
Yes, so we do them in different locations. There's one every week. Most of the time they're at lunchtime and we serve lunch as part of the process. Tonight we have one that's in the evening. So we have them alternatively in Knoxville and Maryville and very soon in Lenoir City.
Awesome. Leigh, thank you very much for joining us.